Disciples were up in that upper room out of fear, because many of them thought, well, maybe we'd be next. Jesus already told them that they were going to flee, they were going to run away, kill the shepherd, and we'll all be scattered. That's what Jesus said, and that's prophetically true. But as they're gathered there in that room, Jesus shows up in that room. What's that like? Can you put your feet in the disciples' shoes or sandals or whatever? He showed up the first time and Thomas wasn't there. A week later, he shows up again. And he says, Thomas, come here. It's me. You see that both flesh and bone touch me, handle me. Put your hands, my side, my wounds, my hands. It is I. It's me. He even took time to sit down and eat, just to show that he was not some figment of imagination. He sat down and ate with them. Do you have any fish? Do you have any bread? We're told by Luke in the first verses of Acts that Jesus walked this planet after the resurrection for 40 days. He appeared to many people. 40 days. The effect upon these disciples, these apostles, are humongous. There you go. Large. That a lot of their preaching in the book of Acts, a number of times, they refer to the resurrection as being so significant that they were willing to take risks in faith, to live a life, to go out, to do things, some of them went as far as India, to Syria, to Iraq, to Persia, all over the place. Peter preaches on the day of Pentecost. A portion of it goes like this. Fellow Israelites, listen to this. Jesus of Nazareth was a man accredited by God to you by miracles, wonders, and signs, which God had among you through him. And as you yourselves know, this man was handed over to you by God's deliberate plan and foreknowledge. And you, with the help of the wicked men, put him to death by nailing him to a cross. I'm glad he doesn't stop here. But God raised him from the dead, freeing him from the agony of death, because it was impossible for death to keep a hold on him. David said about him, I saw the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand, and I will not be shaken. Therefore, my heart is glad, and my tongue rejoices. My body also will rest in hope, because you will not abandon me to the realm of the dead. You will not let my Holy One see decay. You have made known to me the paths of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence. Fellow Israelites, I can tell you with confidence that the patriarch David died and was buried, and his tomb is here to this day. But he was a prophet and knew that God had promised him by oath that he would place one of his descendants on his throne. And seeing what he has come, he spoke of the resurrection of Messiah, that he would not abandon to the realm of the dead, but see, commending him, they fulfilled the word of the prophets that are read every Sabbath, though they found no proper ground for the death sentence. Now, Paul picks this up in his own personal testimony as well. And I find that he also refers to the psalm. That particular psalm is Psalm 16. But Paul uses another psalm that I don't think we ever read it the way Paul mentioned it. Paul said this, "We tell you the good news, what God promised to our ancestors. He has fulfilled for us and their children by raising up Jesus, as it is written from the second psalm. You are my son. Today I've become your father." Now, I've never read the second psalm with the idea that it talks about resurrection. Have you? So, I want to read it, and I want you to have that in mind when we read it. That what is a reflection of the resurrection, you are my son. The declaration by God, the Father, says, you are my son, I'm well pleased. Right? All right, get that. Why do the nations conspire and the people plot in vain? And the kings of the earth rise up and the rulers band together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break the chains and throw off the shackles. The one enthroned in the heavens laughs. The Lord scorns at them. He rebukes them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath, saying, I will install my king on Zion, my holy hill. I will proclaim the Lord's decree. He is to me, you are my son. Today I have become your father. Ask me, and I will give you the nations your inheritance, and the ends of the earth your possession. You will break them with a rod of iron, and you will dash them like a pottery. Therefore, you king, be wise. Be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and celebrate his rule with trembling. Kiss the Son, or he will be angry, and you will led to destruction. For his wrath can flare up at any moment. Blessed are all those who take refuge in him. I've never read it that way before, with the idea that the second psalm, as Paul does, has to do with resurrection, and especially that phrase, I've set my king on the holy mountain. That's the resurrection. That's what God did. Rose again. The resurrection meant so much and changed every apostle's life, because up to the actual time of the resurrection, they didn't even believe in resurrection. They didn't even know what resurrection was when Jesus talked about, I'm going to be raised in 3 days. They didn't know that. They didn't get it. They didn't see it until Jesus appeared. But that carried every apostle to not only share the gospel in areas of the world that have never even heard of Jesus, but also in the occasion giving their life. Every apostle gave their life. And they took risks, and that's called faith. Fox's Book of Martyrs, if you ever have a chance to get a copy of it, it is a listing of martyrs, those who have gone before. And of course, it doesn't include the more modern time or more of our time. But this is what it says about the 12. Andrew, crucified. Bartholomew, beaten, then crucified. James, the son of Alphaeus, stoned to death. James, the son of Zebedee, beheaded. John, exiled for his faith. One of the traditions about him is that they couldn't kill him by boiling him in oil. He came out of that. That's a tradition. So they exiled him to Patmos. And he died. He's the only one that died at an old age. Jude, the other Judas, not the Iscariot, stoned to death. Matthew is speared to death. Peter, crucified upside down. Tradition says that they tried to get Peter to recant his faith in Jesus by putting his wife on a cross first. And he continued to encourage her, stand, hold to your faith. And he's crucified upside down because he thought not to die. He didn't want to die the way the Lord died. He was that humble to die. Philip, crucified. Simon, crucified. Thomas, speared to death. He's the one that ended up going to India. And there's still churches and a whole group of people that use him as the patron. Matthias, stoned to death. That's what the resurrection meant to them. And for all of us, how far away do we really believe that he's risen from the dead? That he walks and he's with us all the time, that he's involved in our everyday, that he is alive and he is coming again, as he's promised. But how far are our actions away from that belief that he's alive? How often do we complain? Oh man, I have a problem with that. I complain about complaining. There you go. Complain about a circumstance or things that are happening and not realizing that because Jesus is alive, he steps into that situation, right? Do we really believe? And what extent, what keeps us from sharing or at least being able to talk with somebody else about the love of Jesus? Why is it so hard? I ask that myself. If I truly believe that Jesus is alive from the grave, who's overcome death, even for us, why is it so hard? Then I go, do I really believe? Now, belief is not just a head thing, right? We've talked about that before. It's not something I just think about. It is, I put my full confidence in. That's what Paul was saying in that sermon. Put the full confidence in them. I'm confident that David's still in the grave, but Jesus is alive. Where's our confidence? Where is our confidence?